Hi, my name is Loudon Stearns, and I'm a professor at Berklee College of Music. I also wrote the Advanced Ableton Live course at berkleemusic.com and the Composing and Producing Electronic Music course at berkleemusic.com. I'm a certified Ableton trainer, and the reason I got that certification was because I absolutely love the program. It's really my favorite DAW. And I'm often asked by students why I chose Live as my main DAW. And it's a tough question. I just find myself always going back to the program. I think it's the most comfortable place to make music on the computer. But I came up with 5 reasons, and I'd like to take the next 5 weeks to show you kind of in detail each one of the reasons why I really love Ableton Live. We'll look at mapping this week, both key mapping and MIDI mapping, because really it's one of those things that I just use constantly and I really love about the program. And then the next weeks we'll look at warping, signal flow, the rack system in Live, and Max for Live. All right, let's check out mapping. The process of mapping is associating an external fader or button on your keyboard or controller to something inside of Live. And there are 2 main types of mapping, MIDI mapping and key mapping. And I find a ton of uses for mapping even in a studio context, particularly with key mapping. So I have my keyboard here, and the process of key mapping is taking a button on your alphanumeric keyboard and having it control something within Live. The process of doing this is quite easy. You go up to the upper right-hand corner in Live, and you'll see a key button. We can click on that, and everything will turn orange. Everything that's orange can be controlled with a key on your alphanumeric keyboard. You'll see that I have the main functions, the kind of transport functions of Live already preset for me, including T for tap tempo and C for click, F for follow, etc. You can set these up yourself very easily just by clicking on a parameter and like overdub here, and then hitting a button on your external keyboard. Maybe we'll go with W. And now W will control overdub. If I hit W, you'll see overdub will come on and off. Now, there's one thing that can cause a little bit of issue with this, and I just want to mention it so you don't have this frustration, which some of my students do. They'll find that they play they'll try to use one of their mappings, like I have F set to follow, but they'll hear a note or it just won't work. Right now, if I hit F, I'm actually playing a note through this chords track, which is record enabled. It's doing that because I have the MIDI keyboard option on, which means that my alphanumeric keyboard can play chords and notes into tracks. Well, that sort of MIDI input overrides the key mapping temporarily, so if you have that on, some of your key mappings might not work. Turn it off, and the F key will now change whatever you want. Now you notice that when I started up Live, it had those mappings by default. And it does that because I've set up a default set that I use every time I start Live. And that's easy to configure. First, you go into a blank Live set and set up all the mappings you use all the time. Then go to your preferences and the File folder section and choose Save Current Set as default. So again, you set up all the mappings you use all the time, and then you save it as your default set, and that way every time you open up Live, those mappings are there waiting for you. Awesome stuff. So that's pretty obvious, right? Play, stop, rewind, record. You want to have quick access to those, so the keyboard mapping is great for that. There's another aspect of kind of the studio production process that I love mappings for, and that is when trying to A/B between settings on plugins. I'm very often kind of tweaking like a compressor setting or an EQ setting for a long time. I'm trying to figure out, how best to use it. And it's really handy if you can A/B between your previous setting and your new setting. Key mappings or MIDI mappings make this a really easy process. Let's check it out. I'll play just this slap bass section that I have right here. And I might want to play with the compressor. So to do this, I'd like to be able to easily A/B between 2 different compression settings. To do this, I'll click on my compressor and hit Command D, which is duplicate on a Mac. Great key command to know. Then I'll turn off the first compressor, enter key mapping mode, that's Command K on a Mac, click on the power button, and I'll hit maybe A, and then click on the other power button and hit an A, and get out of key mapping. So you'll see if I hit that A key now, it switches between the 2 settings. And I can play it back. It's my old setting. Go to my new setting. Maybe I want a more aggressive compressor, so I'll increase the ratio. Previous setting. New setting. I like the change. So I can delete the old one And if I really want to, I can go to key mapping mode and get rid of the key mapping. Now I'd like to look at how I might use MIDI mapping in a studio context. So in this instance, I'll use an expression pedal to turn recording on and off in my DAW, so I can kind of focus on performance and then just have that turning on and off with my foot real easily. So I'll enter MIDI map mode. I'll click on the record button and I'll put my foot on my expression pedal. And now I've associated the expression pedal to control record. If I turn that up, recording's on. If I turn it down, recording's off. So now I'll hit play and I'm going to hear the click track. And I can play along. I'm feeling good. Expression pedal up. I'm recording now. Expression pedal back, and I'm stopped recording. So the great thing about that is now I have this beautiful recording of my chord part that I liked, waiting for me. And I was able to kind of play with both hands and get a really nice recording kind of on the fly. So that sort of thing, that's just one example. And this can be done in a bunch of different ways. An expression pedal or a sustain pedal is a hugely useful thing when working Ableton Live because it keeps your hands free and you can still control the program easily. So those are a couple ways I employ mapping in the studio. The live uses I think are kind of obvious and you know, hugely important. So that's my first thing that I really love about live that I use all the time. I'll see you in the next couple weeks to show you some other of the really important aspects of live that I just can't live without.